Hey, good morning, everybody. Just logging in. We're going to give our audience just one more minute to gather, so we'll be back with you in about 60 seconds. Thanks for coming today. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know it's end of quarter for a lot of people. Very, very busy time, very exciting time. We're glad to be back for our first quarterly summit this year, where each quarter we gather some of the most interesting conversations we're having in the market about what's happening with partnerships. And we have an absolutely great lineup. I'm your host. I'm Sam Gong, the leader of marketing here at WorkSpan. I'm going to get out of your way quickly. Let's go ahead and pull up our agenda and slides. Okay, so, sorry, back one. Quick call out here. A lot of great connections come out of this conference. So encouraging everybody to be active in the chat, introduce yourself, engage with the other people that have joined. If you're in partnerships, there's a good chance that the companies you work with or want to work with are also here today. Lots of great attendees across cloud, services, tech, AI. Make these summits a priority. So business has come out of these, great relationships, jobs have come out of these. Introduce yourself and engage. Let's keep going. Our agenda for today, we're going to cover awards. We're going to have Amit talk about the framing for building billion-dollar partnerships and what we've observed in the great leaders and the creativity that goes into unblocking their teams and unblocking their businesses to unlock next step function level growth through their partner functions. We're going to recognize some of the best partner programs that we've been working with as a company from the last year with our co-stars of co-sell. So very excited to share some results. I'll be back with you for those presentations. And then absolutely stellar lineup. We'll have Brian Bohan in conversation from AWS with Amit Sinha. We'll have Todd de Blasio from Deloitte with Nirav. And then we'll close with Jason Gallo from Cisco. So thank you again for being here. We know it's a busy time. I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Amit to kick us off.
Thank you, Sam. What a pleasure to be with the community one more time here today. Happy New Year to everybody. Delighted to be here and present a point of view. So this session is titled the Tres Comma Club, which is building billion-dollar partnerships. And you just simply don't get there in a linear way. You have to reinvent yourself, reinvent your partnerships, reinvigorate it with success, with new ways of doing business. And some of the leaders being highlighted today will actually talk about that. So, first, let's set up the problem. So, partnership growth, as I said, is not linear. No one journey feels like the similar to the other one. What happens is you get all excited in terms of building a coherent partner program. There's good intent, you build and you start scaling it. But then eventually you hit a wall. And this is where all the linear efforts are scaling well, but you need to put in more to get more results. The non-linear platform, the X factor benefits don't kick in. And as we know, platforms are exponential in nature. This is where the interdependent relationships, the mutual customer contacts, the warm introductions, the mutualness of the multi-partner ecosystem needs to kind of come in. And also, not just your platform, but also the innovation on top that people build and needs to come in. And there's no one way to actually driving this success. So as you build, as you scale, you eventually hit this wall. You have to really reinvent. You have to really rethink your partner program, your partnerships themselves, and how they are measured to break through this wall. And I want to show you 3 examples today in these discussions. I'll tee them up in terms of the problem statements these leaders were facing, and then we'll bring them up one by one to kind of actually unpack this in wonderful detail. And as you know, you've participated in ecosystem business summits before. It is your forum as well. So feel free to write your questions and comments, and the moderators will pick your question and ask those questions to these executives. So first up, let's take a look at AWS. What we learned from watching AWS was, they have hit initially, if you look at 10 years ago, they hit a wall around how do they unlock? They had a huge ecosystem, but how do they truly unlock these big partnerships to their full potential? Having 100,000 plus partners, but having these large partners and making them billion-dollar businesses. So Brian Buchan will be here. I'm delighted to say that he actually grew the Accenture AWS relationship from literally start to $1 billion plus. And as we looked through their example, what we found was discipline and maniacal focus. You build a big elephant one, chunk at a time, and the focus that he had around building, 100 million plus individual businesses that eventually add up to that. And then eventually, because they had such a large ecosystem, partners of AWS were also partners of Accenture. So we're going to talk to him about that as to how did he unlock the power of 3. And then to make this in his new role, he took those best practices that he had formulated, and now under the consulting COE, he's emanating that best practices to every partnership that AWS has. Not just one partnership; it is the whole consulting COE that he's leading. So let's talk about those 3 practices in great detail with Brian. Next up, we will have Deloitte. Oh my goodness, this is such a great story. And as you see with Deloitte, they have built multiple billion-dollar businesses with their alliances. But if you look at the writing on the wall, literally, when cloud came around, everybody said, "Hey, cloud will disrupt services because on-premise had so much of built services around and deployment services. Like cloud is such an easy consumption model, the services will get disrupted." And again, they're saying the same thing about AI. The AI will disrupt services. But in reality, what we are finding is at companies and leaders like Deloitte, they reinvent themselves. They align and focus around customer outcomes. So as a result of cloud, they were able to give better services, better solutions back to partners. As a result of AI, in fact, they'll talk about some of their initiatives around this topic, building these IP assets that surround the innovation and yet deliver end customer outcomes. So tying themselves to the customer and hence scaling with the ecosystem. They're a masterful art in this. So looking to unpack a little bit more of this with them. Next, we will have Cisco. What a fantastic ecosystem. More than 90% of revenue flows through Cisco partners. This is a 25-year-old marquee partner program that they were running. It is large, multidisciplinary, multi-portfolio. But in the age of AI and cloud, it needs reinvention. And who better to talk about this than Jason? Jason has been the architect of the new Cisco 360 partner program. That's actually going to launch on 25th of January, so in a couple of days. And they've been co-architecting, co-building, and co-designing this ecosystem with their partner network. And what a masterful job in terms of kind of aligning the partners around the customer lifecycle. So if customers are growing, then Cisco and its partner network grows. So that is a part of the billion-dollar partnerships. So they have terrific partnerships in the industry, as you know, and how they are redefining how partner value is measured and rewarded as a result of this. And all of this, as I mentioned, co-designed with partners. So we'll unpack a lot of this with Jason. And feel free to chime in and ask your questions or observations if you've partnered with Cisco or Deloitte or AWS. So any observations, any best practices that you've seen them, do feel free to write them into the comments. We'll highlight some of them. And lastly, a little bit about our role in some of this. So we are very, very proud to be working with all of these companies as they reinvent their programs, as they scale to billion-dollar partnerships. And for me, three things really stood out. One is, if you look at the adjoining innovations that we've seen in sales automation or marketing automation, the partner automation has been left behind in prior decades. But this is the decade and the age of the ecosystem. Ultimate focus should be on partner automation. Partnering teams are no longer teams that could do with spreadsheets. This is an art that has converted now into science and attribution. So these teams have focused a lot on the tooling and the automation. Cisco with their PXP platform, which Workspan is part of, Deloitte with their strategic partner ecosystem program, and of course with AWS and its co-sell program and the marketplace automation. There's huge amount of automation and APIs that have actually gone into making this happen. So Workspan is an easy button to do that. Second is where they've gone beyond just partnering and partner teams is seller activation. So it's not just about putting a partner program out there that partner managers use. It's actually sellers of your partners that need to use it. And this is where use of AI to actually activate sellers so that you can have these sellers who are doing 10% engagement with partnerships today. You always have that one person who does use partnerships really well, but not everybody. So this is about activating all those people. And lastly, it's about partner productivity. We want partner leaders to be exponential in their reach, in their ability to execute. And if it scales linearly, it's not going to be efficient. So how do we give them amazing productivity so that they can handle the growing legions of partnerships and the depth of partnerships that they're managing? So that's our role. That's our contribution to the success of these leaders. And we look forward to kind of sharing some of these stories with you. With that, I'm truly excited to pass the ball back to you, Sam, and let's introduce the next speaker.
Oh, we're going to do our co-stars of co-sell. Thanks, Amit. We market Workspan's capabilities to support co-sell and a lot of really powerful features, especially as AI comes out. But as we run our customer awards program in Q4 and we read the nominations and the stories of people building partnerships, I'm always humbled and reminded that software is the tiniest part of this battle. And especially in partnerships, you need leadership, you need vision, and you need to herd cats across two companies to deliver the types of outcomes that we're going to see from our award acceptees today. So very, very exciting to read through the nominations and have the team look deeply at these partner programs and choose the ones that we want to highlight and celebrate and share with you today. We have three categories. The first is our Pioneer Award, which is awarded to a design partner who engages with Workspan early and helps us build the features that power the future of partnerships. And for any of you who were with us with our launch last year, we had Boomi on stage with us, and I'm spoiling the prize here a little bit, but let's go ahead and announce that our 2026 Partnering Pioneer Co-Star of Co-Sell Award is going to Boomi, and we have our good friend and longtime collaborator, Joe Estes, the Global Alliance Director for their AWS partnership, here to walk through some of the amazing things that Boomi has done in the last year to grow their partnerships. Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Boomi. Thank you for being with us here today to share some of your journey.
Hey, great. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. We are extremely proud to be part of the Workspan family. I think we're a longtime customer of Workspan, maybe one of your first in this space. I'm not exactly sure where we fall in that regard, but we are very happy with our journey. And I think as we'll see here with the slide, it has enabled us to truly grow our AWS business. So that's my role at Boomi. I manage our global AWS business. And with the automation that we've implemented with WorkSpan, there is simply no other way we could have achieved this type of a growth trajectory on our own in a manual, workflow environment, traditional workflow environment. We have a very small, lean team that operates highly efficiently and trying to achieve scale, what I call much above our weight class, if you will. And so the WorkSpan capability and solution has been absolutely critical to achieving this level of growth.
And we've absolutely loved your leadership on looking across the full Boomi customer lifecycle and all the opportunities to engage marketplace and drive those automations that you're talking about, so that customers benefit from your AWS partnership and all of the ways that you've used WorkSpan to make that journey easier for them.
That's great. Yeah. And we still have 6 days or 7 days in our Q4 left. So that's why that last bar is purple, because I'm still feverishly working with the WorkSpan technology every day to close out our Q4. So we have, I think, some good results yet to bring in.
Really inspiring, and really appreciate you stepping away from the busy quarter close. And I know what a sacrifice that is, Joe. Thank you so much for joining us to share, and congratulations on all the success. I hope it's another great year for Boomi and your partnership.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, let's move into our next category, which is the Accelerator Award. And this recognizes what I think has become a pattern where veteran partner leaders and hungry partner leaders seek out the playbooks to build quickly and copy the success executing in partner programs that have been established. And so fantastic stories here from OpenText, from Telium, Highland, LTI Mindtree, and Reltio in this past year. Can't go into all of them, but we're very, very pleased to have our winner on the call with us. And if we can go to the next slide, I'll announce that our Accelerator Award for 2026 is going to Highland. And here to accept is Matt Beyer, again, Global Alliance Lead for their AWS partnership. Congratulations, Highland. And Matt, thank you for being with us here to tell the audience a little bit about the amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah, you bet, Sam. Thanks for having us. Recognizing Highland, sometimes there's still so much to be done that you forget what you've accomplished. So thanks for the recognition. As our relationship with AWS has continued to expand and become more aggressive in terms of aligning with our own company goals, WorkSpan has been pivotal in enabling us to achieve that success. Similar to Joe, we are a small but mighty team, and with everything we're doing, not only with just the integrations, but then as we expand it to other ecosystem partners and really looking at the AI teammate and what we can accomplish there, the reactions have been very positive for us internally, which is exciting. And then obviously that shows well to our leadership team. So more to come, but we're excited for what we've been able to achieve.
Thank you, Matt, for the confidence and for your vision. I think we'll talk more about this in some of the deeper dives, but the potential for AI to help all of our partner teams that are small and mighty and trying to do more with less. Really, really exciting to see what AI can do for the function.
Absolutely.
Congratulations again, and thank you for taking the time to join us and share.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep us on time and go into our last category. And we had so many amazing stories. There's so much work being done, building partner programs, not just executing on kind of the rails that have been laid by others, but doing some of the creative, groundbreaking work to change behaviors in your org and in your partner org to design a net new motion. That's what we're recognizing in the Architect Award. And so 9 phenomenal nominees, each one with an amazing story: Siemens, NVIDIA, MongoDB, Confluent, Palo Alto Networks, Postman, Deloitte, ClearScale, and Capgemini. We have the privilege to recognize 3 across 3 different types of partnership. It was just too hard to choose, and the work being done at this scale is really so distinct that we wanted to highlight 3. And so let's go ahead and move into our acceptances here. We had a slight scheduling conflict, but congratulations to NVIDIA and Karen Rye, who will be joining WorkSpan at our sales kickoff. All of the co-stars of co-sell winners are invited to come and be in person with us to inspire our field teams and our product teams. Congrats to Karen and NVIDIA on the Tech Partnership Architects Award for co-stars of co-sell. And in our next category, if we're ready, for ISV architecture, we have Palo Alto Networks. Congratulations. And I believe here accepting, we've got Kamal Lamba, the Director of Cloud Engagement, Google Cloud. Absolutely phenomenal what this team has built in their Google Cloud partnership, peerless. And so if we've got Kamal on to accept, thank you so much for being with us, Kamal. Congratulations, and truly inspired by the work that you and your team are leading, building a massive industry-defining partnership.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you so much for the entire WorkSpan team. As Joe said, we have to do more with less, and it takes a village. With WorkSpan, it's all about taking 3 different organizations, or 2 organizations in our case, and having a team where you cannot identify who's part of which team. The entire ability of WorkSpan to integrate the entire go-to-market motion is phenomenal. It's not just when we started with almost nothing, with under $100 million of business, to where we have scaled this to almost $1 billion between the companies' partnership. And we grow. I mean, we're growing not only in the region, but we are taking WorkSpan and scaling this across the globe so that other theaters and other regions can see the power of bringing 2 organizations together in a very structured manner brings to the table. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Kamal. Fantastic to have your partnership and to be along for that journey to operate at that scale. It's a privilege for us. And so thank you for your team and the confidence that you've put in us, and excited for what's next as we continue to scale.
Thank you.
Okay. We are up to our last award, and this is a really exciting one. We have our first ever services winner in the co-stars of co-sell architecture category. And here with us, we have 2 representatives from Deloitte. We'll be in conversation with Deloitte later on, so stick around to hear more of the story about the amazing things that they're building. But congratulations, Brad and Matt, and to Deloitte. Thank you guys for your partnership and for being here. And very, very excited to recognize, I think like Amit said in the introduction, really the fearless and peerless leadership that Deloitte has in running their partnerships and evolving with the era of AI and meeting the customer's needs as they change.
Thank you, Sam. Honor for Deloitte to be selected for this. We really appreciate it. AWS is one of Deloitte's most important alliances globally. We have dedicated teams on both sides to go drive joint activity and joint success, and accurately reflecting our business and our respective CRM systems is important, and WorkSpan is a very important piece of that. And I want to thank the WorkSpan team for all of their extensive work over 3 months to define personas and roles, criteria to select our CRM entries that fit certain profiles like Gen AI technologies or marketing campaign codes, and then finally building out custom workflows so that we could review and use bulk functionality, knowing that's going away with AWS ACE later this year. Having WorkSpan as a key tool to help us manage the number of our entries is so very important. So we are very appreciative of all the efforts of WorkSpan to make this a success. Matt?
Yeah, and the success that Brad talks about in our relationship between, with WorkSpan to implement integration between Deloitte and AWS ACE really helped us give us the confidence to go all in. And so now we've decided to not only extend that similar functionality to GCP with their vector CRM system, but also use WorkSpan as our co-sell platform of choice. So understanding influence of our alliances across our entire alliances stack, as well as enabling co-sell across a broad range, which will be coming soon. So joint pipeline management, deal registration, the ability to share documents easily. We're very much looking forward to it. So that I want to thank folks like Nirav and Ashish and Monk and Amit and Barta and Alex and everybody at the WorkSpan team that's just been so engaged and so willing to help us succeed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It does take a village, and we're very honored to have your confidence and support such a critical motion as so many end customers are trying to put together the services and the cloud offerings and AI and figure out this new world. Thrilled to be along with you guys on this journey at the forefront of partnerships in AI.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, again for participating and being here to share your stories. Thank you to all of our customers that shared their stories. We'll share more of that after today's session, but I want to make sure that we stay on schedule and have lots of time to engage with our speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time back over to Amit and our first guest. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sam. So, what a delightful set of awards. So my congratulations to all the co-stars of CoSell Award winners. It's a privilege to work with you. Seeing firsthand what Joe has done with at Boomi with the renewals, and as well as the marketplace traction, and using the propensity to buy and account-based AI signals that he's utilizing, truly a masterclass. Watching Highland actually bring not just Highland CoSell, but also GSIs along with their motion, and using AI in a very advanced way to get account-based intelligence that AWS and other partners are sharing with them, truly pioneering. And then watching what NVIDIA has done across all three hyperscalers. They have established a common process layer with very little resources, to be candid with you. What they've been able to do is truly masterful in terms of building billion-dollar scale from zero to tens of billions very, very quickly. And if you look at the success that Palo Alto has shown, truly staggering, $1 billion plus. We saw it literally mature from hundreds of millions to $1 billion plus. And they truly actually run their joint pipeline together with Google Cloud on the Workspan system, with two teams actually collaborating together on joint cadence calls. It's truly been magical to see that scale really well, with systems kind of updating on both sides, so that nobody's truly struggling for data. They're actually doing what the customers want them to do, which is focus on them. And lastly, with Deloitte, setting up the unit model first, right? Knowing where you're going, but with the unit model that Brad had established, love that. And then that allows Matt and team to actually, and Todd, to kind of scale this out to every one of their top alliances. So that's the playbook that some of these guys are going to share next with you. So with that, I'm truly excited to kind of get to the next session here. So if you can bring up the slides, I'll introduce the speaker is checking in. So this next session, we'll speak to Brian Bohan from AWS. Brian is the global lead and consulting leader for the consulting partner COE at AWS. Brian is the director of worldwide consulting partners. He has been a pioneer in this space. He was, as I had mentioned before, he founded the Accenture AWS partnership and scaled to $1 billion plus. And he now leads the Consulting Partner Center of Excellence, setting strategy, building best practices, and using the AWS consulting partner ecosystem to bring more workloads to AWS, but also kind of affecting a lot of end customer transformation as a result as well. So with Brian's leadership, what has happened is, if we look at the consulting, the top 18 partners or so that we've been working very, very closely with, what we've observed is the best practices that the consulting COE has established in terms of pioneering either the joint sharing of pipelines so that companies can actually collaborate better with each other. Not only that, but also then building net new IP. And as I had mentioned in the introduction, these joint solutions that are actually being built and now utilizing marketplace as a go-to-market vehicle to do this work has been very pioneering. So I want to get to unpack a lot of this with support from the conversations there. With that, Brian has just entered the stage. If we can add him to the conversation here, would love to continue the conversation. So very warm welcome to you, Brian. The ecosystem community is here and eager to listen to you. I gave a very brief introduction of yourself. But a quick, quick, easy introduction. If you can share who you are and what you do at AWS, would be a great start.
Fantastic. First of all, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and to talk to everybody. So Brian Bohan, AWS, been here coming up on 13 years this April in a variety of roles. So I currently lead what we call the Consulting Partner Center of Excellence. And so really we have two remits in the Center of Excellence. On one hand, we look after a set of global strategic consulting partners. So think about all the GSIs, some of the advisory partners, channel partners, et cetera. But the second part of the remit is, in this time of great change and evolution in the consulting partner business and SI business, we are really the team that has the finger on the pulse of where the business is going and where we should be placing our bets and our investments, right? To help deliver value for our customers and help accelerate our business and our consulting partners' business over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah, I want to really unpack this a little bit. So CCOE, the consulting COE, is really a scaling lever. So peel back the onion a little bit and say, besides individual partnerships, what do you do actually in the consulting COE that helps scale this best practice across the board?
Yeah, there's a number of things that we do. So I'll just hit on a few that I think are really good examples that I'm particularly proud of. Like, so in the first part of the remit, yeah, we're managing partners, right? And that's a big job unto itself, right? And they're important, they're strategic to our business, and it's a big, heavy lift. But what we've asked the team to do is also pick our heads up and say, if we're identifying patterns or trends or headwinds or tailwinds, let's latch onto those and see if we can bake something bigger that impacts the entire business. And that's the scale piece. So a couple examples. So one is something that we're calling process to agent. And so this goes back to earlier in this year where we saw an opportunity, in particular with some of what we'd call the traditional business process outsourcing businesses. Think about the global capability centers in India, heavily process centric, right? Over the years, mostly around labor arbitrage with RPA, under, I think, a great opportunity, and these firms see it themselves, great opportunity to drive transformation around agentic in these areas. And so our team dove in, worked extremely closely with a number of these, business process as a service, as they're evolving to become more service as software companies, to really interject this process to agent methodology, to build that methodology, how you go from a deterministic world to a probabilistic world. What are all the things that need to happen? What kind of partners and capabilities do we need in that program to make that true? And then how do we get early wins? So right now we've got 11 launched projects with 11 different partners and customers, scaling that out to be dozens and across the world. So now it's a funded program across the world with AWS. So great example of like a little germ of an idea, a scrappy team that got it going, and now it's a scaled initiative across the world. So that's one. Another one I'll touch on that I think is really interesting because it also fits very closely with this kind of evolution of consulting partners that we're seeing. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we're calling pattern partners. It's sort of an internal thing. So as I talk about it, it's like I realize pattern partner might not make a lot of sense externally, but think about it as what we're seeing, again, especially in the areas of agentic and AI, is a new kind of partner emerging, new kind of consulting partner. In fact, it's hard to even call them a consulting partner. And so thinking of firms like Scan.ai, Rhino.ai, Druve, Robots and Pencils, like these companies are incredibly innovative. They're agentic first. They have really novel commercial models. They're using agents in place of or an augmentation of humans to drive outcome-based projects in extremely short timeframes. And we think this model points to the future. And so even though they're not technically like in our direct portfolio, we've created these SWAT teams to go out who are very deeply technical to work very closely with them to better understand what they're doing and then see how we can plug them into all of our more scale programs that we have across AWS to help accelerate their businesses, right? And it's also, it's good for them because it really helps accelerate their business. But again, I feel like we're living in the future a little bit. They're helping us understand the direction of traffic, which is going to help us be more thoughtful about where we want to place our investments that are going to benefit all of our partners and our customers.
Absolutely, Brian. Hearing you, it reminds me that, as individual partnerships, we might be bicycling. But if you think about the CCOE, it's really the turbocharge engine that you put underneath AWS, thinking about pattern partners, thinking about these trends, abstracting, stepping back, and then creating these ways to scale. What a truly remarkable thing. Next, I want to talk to you about this, harken back to the Accenture partnership that you led. Obviously, you grew it to $1 billion plus. It's a huge success story. So peel the onion back a little bit and tell us, how did you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mention it in the intro, but back in 2015, so I helped write the document that became essentially the foundation for the Accenture AWS business group. And then on the AWS side, led that team, which continued to grow over the years for, I think it was about 2015 to 2020. And you're right, when we started, and look, I went to business school, and frankly, the one thing I remember more than anything else was we had a professor who did this whole correlation study on like executives and like what were the determinants of success. And more than anything that correlated was being at the right place at the right time. So I definitely feel like I was at the right place at the right time, meaning this was just when enterprises were starting to embrace cloud, right? And it was, if you remember, it was kind of like rogue IT, and then the CIOs really started getting on board. And so this confluence of that happening, and then of course working with Accenture, such a prominent partner, it was definitely right place at the right time. And I think we did the right things as well. So a couple things, and some of this is just going to seem like real blocking and tackling. And it's interesting we're talking about it because it also fits into another thing we're doing in the COE right now, which is developing a maturity model for our consulting partners overall, but also in terms of AI. And we're using AI and our own Quick Suite tool to develop this model and to track how our partners progress against it. So some of this is blocking and tackling. I mean, so table stakes. When we're setting up the partnership, and Accenture did a great job of this, and our other partners we're seeing as well, is setting up a dedicated team that wakes up every single day that is gold on and deeply cares about the success of the partnership. And it's more than just a partnership, thinking about it as a practice, as a P&L unto itself, right? And I think that is a really important thing, because within the consulting partners, to have that credibility, to be seen as driving incremental value, it is those senior P&L owners that are necessary, that foundation, right? And then as you mature, what happens is we start getting tendrils and tentacles further out into the different parts of the business. And now, with a lot of our partners, we have regular cadences with our industry sales leaders and their industry sales leaders, right? And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? It is closer to the customer. And so that's like an evolution of what that structure can look like. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you need to be, again, might seem obvious, you need to be really clear on where you're going to focus. Some of these partners that we work with, they're large, they work in multiple industries, multiple subdomains. They literally can do almost anything, right? And AWS, I think we could credibly also show up to customers and say, what challenge do you have? Let's go solve it, right? And so the answer can't be, let's do everything. You got to get really focused on what you're going to be famous for and lock into that. And so in the early days with these Accenture, we had that. We had like 5 areas that were going to be the foundational pillars. 2 of those, interestingly, turned out not to be. But we also built a model whereby we could be agile and pivot and then bring in new capabilities. And then over the years there, and we see this with other partnerships too, is we're able to then to extend the set of capabilities as like those newer ones, they become more BAU, so business as usual. Like that's a core competency. The engine is running, the flywheel is going. Now let's add on some incrementality, some new practice areas that we need to go and develop. And of course, right now that is around, AI, agentic, physical AI. We're seeing the engineering trend, around product engineering and OT side of the house being a growth area across all of our partnerships. So that's super important. And then the last thing I'll say is, and I was just in Dallas this week with another partner that we're really excited about, that we're looking to expand. And I was telling them, like, when we do identify those areas, work hard to make sure that your 1 + 1 = 3. And again, it sounds completely cliche, and to a certain extent it is, but it's really easy to say and really, really hard to do. Meaning, like, it's not substitutable. You can't swap out AWS and you can't swap out the consulting partner or the SI from the equation. Like, they are inextricably linked. The value is because they're inextricably linked, and it's accretive. And when it's together, it delivers something greater than the sum of the parts, right? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And again, really hard to do that. So I challenge everybody to come up with what they think that value proposition is. And it may differ from, by industry, solution by solution, even persona by persona to whom you're selling, right? And I think that's like, it sets a high bar for what's distinctive, because what doesn't work And we see this, right? When we show up to each other's field teams and you show up, you're like, what do? We do cloud, we do migrations, we do modernization, we do managed services. Like, okay, well, so does everybody. And then AWS shows up and says, we have infrastructure services. Well, so do other people. What is uniquely distinctive about the combination of the partners coming together? Like, that is really important, hard to do, and important to nail down.
Absolutely, Brian. I want to push you a little bit on this topic. I've seen that this is the good side, this is the success story, but there are a lot of partners who are stuck at, let's say, 100 million max, right? It feels like they've gone full throttle and stuck at that. So when you look at partners who've really broken through that barrier, let's call it the sound barrier of partnerships, what do you see that they do differently versus those who do not?
I think, when you look at that challenge statement, and we do see that. So I do want to acknowledge that we do see it. I think you could break it up maybe into two. There's probably more than two pieces. This is an oversimplification, but you do have a set of what I'll call, like, again, more smaller kind of like agile partners where, and I many years ago in my career, I ran a P&L for a national SI here in the States. So it's kind of was in that realm. And I saw firsthand the challenge of selling and delivering, like the balance of selling and delivering, so it's hard to do both, be ambidextrous. So when you sell and you land some big deals, all of a sudden, like, your people, especially if like a partner-based sales model, and like the people, especially in consulting, like the people who sell are the people who are credible, who actually do the work, right? And next thing you know, those folks who are selling are now actually doing the work. And like, so now you got one hand tied behind your back. And it's hard to break out of that because the economics are such that it makes it challenging. So one thing we're doing with partners like that, of that size, is I'll call it kind of exporting some of our capability and know-how around AI-powered prospecting and sales, right? So they don't have to build all that muscle themselves. So that's one thing. Another thing that we're going to be increasingly doing, and this is why like the partnership with Workspan is so important, is get in this agentic world. We also have to move beyond like humans only talking to humans around like sharing capabilities, sharing pipeline, sharing target accounts. Like that's a bottleneck, right? That doesn't scale. So like creating an increasingly automated way to have a bi-directional flow of content and information. And some of that from us out increasingly is going to be like propensity models, next best actions, right? We have a lot of data, as you'd imagine. We understand when customers have a certain architecture or bought certain services, what the next best actions might be. And so our partners can expect more of that from us. And I think that's going to be a fantastic accelerant. And on the bigger partners, I think it's a little bit like what I talked about before, is breaking. You need that kind of central practice on both sides to get the thing up and going and to govern it. And it's really important to have those folks who wake up every single day dedicated. But at some point, you've got to be inside the fabric of each organization in a material way to really scale. Like the folks who are responsible for the customers need to wake up and be like, oh, my success is at least in a large part dependent on that partnership. So I'm going to prioritize pulling it in and driving it, right? That's the only way to scale. And that's how we break that sound barrier with our big partnerships.
Fantastic. What great insights there. Now, you're also at the center of watching new business models evolve from these services partners. They're not staying static. They're building IP and solutions. So talk a little bit about that and a little bit about what you're thinking about in the marketplace space with these services partners.
Yeah, it's a real privilege even to have this job right now, I have to say. Like, this is what gets me really excited, is this kind of like fluidity and change and trying to keep up with it, which is super hard to do. But yeah, there is a sea change. I mentioned some of it around, some of the traditional BPO partners moving much more into a service as software model. That's a big one. Another big one, and I think this is all like predicated on this bigger trend of the decoupling of revenue and value from FTEs, right? I think this notion of like, okay, we just continue to grow FTEs and we have like a cost plus margin model. I mean, it's not like, it's still very prevalent, but like the direction of traffic is that's getting disrupted a little bit. So what do? So you've got to still capture a wide wedge of value there, right? And so ways of doing that, we're seeing a lot of our partners move more aggressively into products and solutions, and augmenting the human professional services with products and solutions. This is a trend they've been doing for quite some time, but we're really seeing it accelerate, and we're seeing them get more focused on monetization of those products. Whereas before, perhaps there were more accelerants and kind of ways of differentiating and getting further down the field. Now they're standalone monetizable, right? So that's a big trend. And I could talk more about it, but that's also, I think, fits so well with our marketplace strategic direction. We could talk more about that. So that's a big one. Another one is how our partners show up at clients, right? And again, this is why the pattern partner piece is so interesting, because they're showing up in such different ways. It's not analysts showing up and doing discovery in services, it's agents doing discovery. We have Rhino.ai, Skyan.ai, who use agentic to interpolate context and ontologies, right, from existing ways of working. It completely upends the way client expectations of what they can expect from a consulting partner. So we're seeing our partners leaning in that way. Palantir, obviously, a lot of buzz around the FDE model, so different versions of that. All of it is really more agile teams that are flexible and augmented by agents to drive better outcomes. And then outcomes is another one. We're seeing increasingly a focus on outcome-based projects. It's early, and clients themselves, I think, sometimes struggle on the procurement side to figure out how to ingest a outcome-based project. But as line of business leaders become increasingly involved and engaged in technology decisions, which they are, which is being accelerated by AI, well, I think we'll see that more and more. And then the last thing I'll say is it kind of goes into the ways of working as well, and it's our partners, especially the bigger ones, have, 1 million plus people in India, the Philippines, nearshore, big development centers. So again, rethinking the way those development teams are structured and are using agentic to scale and transform into an AI DLC model. So it's not just about slapping tools in, it's also rethinking how you even organize the whole end-to-end AI DLC to fully take advantage of those tools. So that's another really big area that we're seeing, that we're really excited, and we're engaging extensively with our partners.
Absolutely. The agility of all these business models that you just described, the way you show up at a client location, instead of doing discovery, maybe an automated, AI agent is doing the discovery automatically around it. How the forward deployed engineers are working hand in hand, co-innovating the future. The entire delivery model, instead of getting disrupted, they're actually being the accelerators of AI innovation in the front, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the press likes to have a field day around the consulting partner thing, but what we're seeing, having really being on the ground, working hand in hand, is an extreme recognition that things are changing and a lot of innovation, right? And customers also need help. Like, this is a overwhelming time. If you just imagine, like, every week there's new announcements, new capabilities. How do you pull all this together and actually succeed? And then how do you run and operate these new AI constellations responsibly, securely, in an automated way, right? Our partners have such fantastic expertise in this area. And that's another area where we're investing significantly, is this kind of like next gen managed services capability powered by AI to manage AI, right? So that's another thing.
And I was talking to Matt Wai at the AWS marketplace, and he was mentioning that services partners are one of the biggest growth drivers of the marketplace. So talk a little bit about that trend. Why are services partners listing on the marketplace and using it as a transaction engine?
Yeah, fantastic. Matt and I were just slacking about this yesterday, as a matter of fact. And so, I think if you look at our marketplace, which is, as I said before, a really strategic pillar of our overall AWS business, and just incredible growth from that marketplace. So kudos to Matt and the team. But it has largely been an ISV-centric motion, right? I think the SI community has been putting assets on marketplace, but it hasn't been the primary route to market, route to revenue. I think a few things are happening that are going to radically change that, and this is why we're really excited. So we have, in my world, we have 5 big strategic pillars for 2026. Marketplace is one of those big pillars. And so I already talked about the trend coming from our customers and our partners around products. And these products look a lot more like products, right? And you can think about them as, there's going to be a bit of tech. It could be software. It could be, some sort of agentic thing wrapped, maybe integrated with a third-party ISV capability, wrapped with that SI partner's professional services, like an FDE model, and then delivered as a SKU, right? Like that is a new thing, and it fits so well with Marketplace. And at the same time, Matt and the team had the foresight to release a number of capabilities at reInvent that also fit very well with our consulting partners, right? We're able to do kind of time materials, variable models, change requests. But the one that we're really excited about is the multi-product solution.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that does exactly what I just described, right? It allows our partners to, and it fits, and again, like anything else, it'll evolve and it'll get more feature rich over time. But this is the thing that I think taps directly into that bigger trend around products. And it's not just about building products, it's about monetizing those products. It's also about reaching new customers, right? For bigger partners, engaging down market and going into greenfield is challenging because the way their model works, setting up new customers there's a high upfront cost to do that. This product model through Marketplace with these SKUs allows for a broader reach into new customers. So again, I think it's early days, but given the trends that we're seeing, we're super bullish on this, and we're putting a lot of emphasis from Matt's team, obviously, but from my team as well.
Yeah, what a great observation. When we think of the power of three, most of these large consulting partners also have their ISV partners, and you have them as well. So it's really a multipolar world in a way.
Oh, 100%. I think reInvent, that was one of my biggest takeaways is I was in so many conversations. But one thing that was interesting for the guy who kind of leads the consulting partner thing, how many meeting requests I got from ISV leadership, right? They wanted to meet. And then almost every SI conversation I was in, there was a acknowledgement of how do we think differently and bigger around our ISV partners and bring them into the fold. So absolutely.
Yeah. And, Todd DiBasio from Deloitte, and earlier we had Matt and the Deloitte team speak. Brad was here as well. And one of the interesting things they've done is, first establish the unit model with AWS, but then it is really the power of three. There are more ISV partners who are really great partners as well, like whether you look at a Workday, a ServiceNow, SAP, right, for example, or even fast-growing partners like Anthropic and others, right? It's really the power of three that comes together.
100%. I mean, that's one thing we're seeing in process to agent is that if you look across, again, that continuum from deterministic to probabilistic, there's a lot of capabilities that are needed along the way. So the ability to bring together and orchestrate a number of different partners with capabilities is critical, ISV and consulting alike. Absolutely.
Yeah. And talking about Marketplace, right, I'm extremely excited about this one. The ability to list solutions, which could be your product, their services, and bundles of these solutions, ultimately is what customers are buying for, the outcomes, right? Which is an end-to-end solution put together by these guys. So truly excited to what results will bear out, but it's a fantastic capability delivered.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next piece here. You've seen so many partners come work with you. I want to give you the space to actually talk about what advice you have for these partners to scale their business, right? Stand back as an industry leader and give us your thoughts on if you're a consulting partner today, building from 0 to 100 or 100 to $1 billion, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, it touches on a little bit of the stuff we talked about earlier, but and we're seeing this with some of the pattern partners. I think more than anything is the being famous for something. If you're going to be a smaller partner and you're going to get attention and you're going to stand out from the rest, you've got to have at least one, if not two, really unique things that you bring to the table. And look, this is, again, pretty standard fare, right? And so if it resonates with customers, it's going to resonate with AWS and our sales teams as well. And I mentioned a couple earlier, this really unique capability to come in and kind of interpolate context into ontologies. Context is so incredibly important, right? We keep hearing this, and LLMs are fine, but LLMs are not trained on your context. So that ability to kind of tap into that context and make it available, super valuable, really important. So we like that focus from those partners. So we want to latch on and we want to see how we can grow those partners. That's just an example of that. I think that's one thing. So be really focused, be really good at something. The other thing I would say is, in terms of working with AWS, we're big. We get a lot of surface area. We could swallow, like we could just like exhaust. That's the other challenge. Like we could exhaust a smaller partner because it's so hard to figure out like where to go. I would say increasingly, and again, this gets back to WorkSpan as well. We also, and this is Matt Wise' team, a different part of Matt Wise' team that, you talked to Matt, is building agentic capability whereby when our sellers are sitting down to do their account planning, as well as when they are identifying opportunities, we are feeding them highly contextualized partner and solution recommendations, right? And that's a tool that Matt's team has built and continues to evolve. And so when I talk to partners, especially smaller ones, look, everybody wants to go meet with like the sales leader and all the account teams and get in a room and do the account planning. It's hard to do that. It's hard for the biggest partners to get, on both sides, because it's just the human capital of doing that is very intensive. So the advice I give is make sure that you're doing the things necessary to show up well in these AI recommendation engines. And so that is making sure that this is the boring stuff, right? But it's making sure that you're using ACE and you're using a partner like WorkSpan to kind of automate that pipeline and that co-sell piece. Super important. Making sure that all those unique stories and differentiation content is getting kind of pushed into us via Partner Central, and increasingly that's going to be agentic as well. Mm-hmm. And then what you're going to see is, again, as we get more specific in our planning and our opportunities, and you're more specific, the matching is going to happen. And we're seeing an increase in the opportunities whereby our reps are using the matching engine versus like the guy they had a beer with last week, right? Yeah. And that's the direction of traffic. And we're also seeing faster close rates, more success when they're using the matching engine. So that's a really important just blocking and tackling piece. It's a hygiene piece, but it's going to be increasingly important. And the other thing is, I would say is, and this is an age-old thing too, and this is true for the bigger partners, this gets back to like enablement, right? There's so much change, there's so much happening, but when your folks show up, we really want them to be well-versed in obviously what they do, well-versed in AWS, but I also set expectations with our internal teams. Like a consulting partner, sales leader or account leader is never going to have the depth on our services, that we do, but they should have that understanding of what the 1 + 1 = 3 is. Like they should know like how like their deep domain expertise, like, and the solutions built on Agent Core deliver value in an incremental way for this subsegment of this industry and be able to articulate that, right? Like that's the story we want to hear. And that's what's going to really resonate with our teams and get folks excited and then accelerate engagement. And then, of course, there's always the deeper technical enablement too. That's super important.
Absolutely. What a great joy to kind of speak to you, Brian, and get these things unpacked very quickly. I took so much away. There will be a blog right after this. We'll write together from the conversation that we had about everything from, kind of unblocking, crossing that sound barrier to, more importantly, connecting and automating for co-sell and giving this data to Matt's team so that, you can make the right recommendations internally as well.
Yep.
Because every opportunity you share, every industry expert, your patterns of win in an industry describe your focus. And those outcomes matter in the recommendation engine back again. So if you're winning, but you're not sharing, how does this work? Right?
That's why we call it pattern partners, right? Because they are each representative of a different pattern that's critical to winning in the agentic race, right?
Awesome. Want to take some audience questions here. So one of the first ones, I want to invite Asher. Asher is writing this question. Asher, as you know, CEO of Partnership Leaders, a key influential member in the community, amazing leader, people should follow. Asher is asking, are there FDs of AWS technologies at these services companies, or do they work alongside service partners in customer locations?
The short answer is yes. I think if you look across our major consulting partners, each has a flavor of the FTE model. And again, I think what it is, it's sort of a new name, but for a highly agile cross-functional team that's spans technology into business, we're seeing that. We also have that within our own Gen AI Innovation Center that itself has a partner innovation piece. And so we're partnering with those partners in this FDE model to drive outcomes to customers. That's great for customers. It also helps build muscle at our consulting partners that they can go scale as well. So yes, different flavors, but yes.
Fantastic. Another one, Steve is talking about they obviously have a lot of AWS capabilities and are building agentic capabilities, but he's asking a question: should we be trying to get into pattern partners? Is there a program or some pure play specialists that you work with? What's the criteria? Honestly, do traditional SIs even fit this model?
We should like, I would urge you, Steve, to follow up, and we'll see. So we do have a set of criteria. To date, it has been more of like smaller pure plays, again, in a particular niche or domain within, like, again, an agentic thing. But again, always interesting to have the conversation. We can have our team talk to you to kind of understand like what we think good looks like, and then how does that compare to what you're doing. I think that's a healthy conversation to have.
Yeah, there's so many other questions, but we've run up on time. Brian, I want to respect your time as well. Thank you so much for your sponsorship of WorkSpan at AWS and your larger ecosystem. I really appreciate this conversation as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Really looking forward to the follow-up. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care. What a great conversation. Sam, I think we are on time, right? Or just 2 minutes short of it. With that, I want to welcome the next speaker, Todd DiBasio, Principal US Growth Platforms with Deloitte. We are going to unpack inside Deloitte's ecosystem engine, how to build billion-dollar partnerships. They've built 18 of them. So this is just a pure joy to kind of take a look at. A warm ecosystem community welcome to you, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Amit. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thanks for doing this. So Todd, as I said, serves on the Deloitte Growth Platforms executive leadership team, driving ecosystems and alliance relationships across the entire US service portfolio. He's also the former Chief Innovation Officer for Deloitte Digital, where he delivered 50 plus market leading solutions to thousands and thousands of practitioners. So I want to unpack that later in the interview. So Todd, say a little bit about yourself, your role, and what are you excited about this year?
Yeah. So first of all, really appreciate the time today. Really excited to be here, but certainly really excited about the partnership with WorkSpan, and love that we could be doing the things we're doing together in the market. The role that I'm in now is sort of a really fun culmination of the 30 years that I've been at Deloitte, and working across a number of areas of our firm. Starting in our telecom practice, and doing work across the wireless carriers, the broadband providers, the cable companies, and translating the innovative environment that those companies really foster into a journey that ended up with the role that you mentioned as the Chief Innovation Officer for Deloitte Digital, which was a unique opportunity to really help us think about how to do some things differently. And a lot of the things that we thought about doing differently really relied on the partner ecosystem that we have today. And now the role I'm in our growth platforms, which growth platforms is just a fancy way of saying our ecosystems and alliances team, but it focuses in on why we have such a focus on our partners, because we believe they're fundamental to our growth. And so the role is really about how do we continue to build the muscle and the structure to support those relationships in a win-win scenario for us and our partners, and most importantly our clients, right? So, and I'm super excited for this coming year on a number of things, but not the least of which is the incredible pace at which we're seeing AI not only help us drive more value for our clients, but just fundamentally change the way we do business ourselves internally. So
yeah. So Deloitte being one of the largest consulting firms in the world, you're of course everywhere in the world, but also across many disciplines. Tell us a little bit more about the Deloitte ecosystem and the impact that your team or the Deloitte's ecosystem team is having on growth and competitiveness of the portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, it is an integral part of everything we do across the firm. We have a a rich and broad ecosystem of 140 plus official alliance partners, and hundreds more of what we'll call market relationships, where we do things on a more periodic basis. But that 140 alliances is really it speaks to not only the breadth of what we could do together, but the importance of partners to basically every part of our practice. And managing that really is a bit of a Herculean effort on some level, because not all of them are created equal, as you would imagine. But they all have a very unique and specialized value proposition in the market that truly makes them all valuable. And when it comes down to it, it's like the simplest way to say it is that partners help us win and deliver differently, right? And the way that we think about it is there's a number of motions that we will employ with our partners. Everything from our co-selling, which really is a critical motion for us, and probably the largest of our motions in the market, and an area where, as you know and your team knows, where you guys are leaning in to help.
Yeah.
With that motion. And it's really about how do we effectively target and plan and execute in a really coordinated way, with our partners. Resell has become an important part of our business. It's a great way for us to package things together and give our clients, the proverbial one throat to choke in some ways. Managed services is another play in the market that's really getting a lot of traction, and it really is fundamentally about how do we standardize around solutions in collaboration with our partners. And then finally, marketplaces are a growing component to our business, which is probably, to be honest, the one that's most uncomfortable for a firm that looks like us, right? Because that move towards SKUs is challenging. I mean, when you are the world's largest professional services firm, you have to really work hard to get people at times to think differently about how we might package things to the market. And frankly, the marketplaces really do serve as a good forcing function for us to think about standardization, productization in a new and different way.
Fantastic. So many types of partners. Scale, we are looking at 140 plus different business motions, co-sell, resell, MSP, marketplace.
Yeah.
Literally kind of firing on all cylinders there.
Yeah.
So my question back to you is, when you think of designing these teams and processes at scale, like how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And, I think there's a couple of things there. One is, it isn't just about like more logos, right? Like the more logos, is great, but really it's how do we drive, repeatability, and how do we maintain a focus on value creation, right? Where we have a unique story to tell in collaboration with our partners, in specific areas of the market. We've really focused on that, at least as a growth platform team, that part of the process around standardizing our approach, driving a common, language, a common set of processes around planning, around reporting, how we do pipeline management, having consistent cadences of things like QBRs, in an entrepreneurial culture like ours, some of those things which may sound, somewhat mundane, are frankly mission critical to just get everybody on the same page. So a lot of that is, been in the past, manual, and done, call it, everybody has their own flavor. And what we're trying to do in order to help facilitate that scaling is create the tools, create the standard processes, leverage platforms like Workspan to drive more automation, build AI into our processes to allow our sellers, frankly, to focus on the market and not focus on the things that support being in the market.
Fantastic, fantastic. And having observed Deloitte for a long time, right? I've seen many innovations, like whether it's a tax optimized supply chain, that's a unique process that you built together with partners, or a cold chain around transporting goods that can get destroyed with weather and things like that. To industries, not, and these are just two examples of horizontals, but could be industry specific as well. So the innovation that you bring together has always been a powerful weapon in terms of what you've achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think you highlight a point where we believe the breadth and scale that we have is an advantage. But I would also say that one of the things that we have to be smart about, right, and where we lean into our partners, to help us, is we can't be everything to everybody.
Correct.
And I think we have to pick the plays where we know we can create the most value for our clients, and partner with the right partners to truly amplify the value that we can bring. But we do have a tendency at times to think we can be everything to everybody, and it's not. It's not a recipe for success in every area for sure.
And Brian from AWS talked about this in his previous session as well, like maniacal focus, which I'm glad to hear resonates.
100%.
I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of building and scaling this partnership from zero to let's say $1 billion. What we've observed is what we are calling a sound barrier of partnerships. A lot of partnerships get stuck around that wall of 50 to 100 million, right? They've done things linearly and now they've hit capacity or constraints. Right. So you've obviously seen these things at play at scale. So can you tell us or give us some advice? What tends to kind of break at that point, and how can companies think about their ecosystems to scale beyond that break point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because it's a couple of things that jump out, right? One is that, again, we have a very entrepreneurial culture, and what you typically see with our partnerships and in their nascency is the passion of the founders, right, driving the growth in the market. But that founder-led model, quickly, hits the ceiling, right? And so until our relationships with our partners become truly practice owned, right, it is always going to be subject to the ceiling of the founder or a few founders who are driving that relationship. The other thing is, it's when you think about what breaks, there's a couple other things that typically break. One is, like, you've got to have a consistent commercial clarity around who is selling what, who owns the customer, how our incentives are aligned with the partners as well as with our clients, et cetera. You've got to be focused on operational throughput, where you standardize around things that allow you to stay focused on growing the market and not on the administrative side of building the relationships, right? And frankly, we have seen, certainly in our world, and I'm sure others have too, that data and the governance associated with it is critical, because if people aren't operating on the same sheet of music, it's very difficult to grow together. One of the other things, frankly, that is a big factor here is we have to ensure that we're growing together with our partners, and making sure that we are not getting ahead of our partners, or our partners not getting ahead of us in that race to scale. We have found in certain places, we are ready to jump in and can, attack a segment of the market where we've gotten excited with a partner, and that partner may not be ready to scale that fast yet, right? And vice versa is also true. So, understanding each's ability to scale and attack segments of the market is really important as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of the sack race, right? You can only go together as long as you are in tow, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you've got a front seat to some of these amazing breakout partnerships, whether it's Anthropic, Databricks, ServiceNow.
Yep.
What do you see that they're doing uniquely different, so that have broken that barrier that you've already seen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. I mean, the things we just talked about. The other thing I would say is, very, very clear alignment, right, with the partner around roles, around what part of the value chain, they're owning, being very specific about the segments of the market, the places that we're going to play, like staying very focused, because there's a tendency, especially in a firm like ours, where we have practices in every sector, and every part of the functional domains in a corporate enterprise. If we don't pick the 2 or 3, where we know we can go create momentum, and we try to do a little bit in 100 places, it very quickly starts to break. And so I think Databricks being a great example of where we've focused in on a couple high potential, high growth market plays, with SAP, with a couple others where we've seen tremendous traction, and a very, very clear alignment with all of the partners involved about who's doing what and how we all create value for our clients together.
Absolutely. Unpacking that SAP example as well, scaling from $1 billion plus is also incredibly difficult, not just from 0 to $1 billion, but how do you actually stay engaged with AWS, Oracle, Salesforce, SAP, or multi-billion partnerships as well?
Yeah.
What are you doing differently with them so that they get to even the next year?
Yeah. There's a couple things, that jump out, and we were actually in a conversation yesterday talking about a portion of our portfolio that is actually our smaller alliances, and as that conversation bled into some of our larger alliances, one of the things that we sometimes I would say kid ourselves about is that when you get to be $1 billion relationship, right? You think about the size, you think about the number of companies that are $1 billion companies.
Yeah.
And so, you actually have to treat it, like its own enterprise, right? And so we have to ensure that we have, scaled all the things that make $1 billion company successful, be part of the motions with those teams. And so that's all the things in the back office as well as the things in the front office. I think at times we try to pretend that you don't have to do some of those things, but it frankly at the end of the day is critical. And I also think it also becomes very clear that you have to be focused on where your partners and where you have the right complementary strengths, and they may not be the same in different parts of the world. So if you're working with SAP, we may be phenomenally strong in life sciences, and we may be outstanding in high tech, but if we're not the number one player in insurance, or we're not the number one player in energy, how do we make sure that we're doubling down where we can create the most value with them, for us, for our clients? The fact of the matter is that when we really look at some of those partnerships, there are a couple of things that have been true for all of them beyond simply sort of the typical scaling. And a lot of it now is about how do we industrialize the things that we are bringing to market into repeatable solutions that build on the things that they do well and the things that we do well, but build them into something that is more repeatable, both from a selling perspective as well as from a delivery perspective. And that really creates the ability to break for us the linear sort of headcount to revenue model. And it helps our partners, clearly understand where, like, this is a collaborative way and it's not a competition, right? We know that as the worlds blur with our partners, that there are times where you have friction around who's doing what with our clients. But I think that clarity, that with each particular market segment, with each play, really helps drive success for everybody.
Yeah. And every time I talk, you set me thinking as well. So as you said, that this is like, think of the $1 billion partnership as its own company, right?
Yeah.
So as a company, you have to build products, you have to market them, you have to sell them, you have to reinvest back those profits into the company itself, like run that loop and grow. Similarly, in a partnerships, you have to co-build, you have to co-market,
Absolutely.
and you have to co-sell now, and you have to co-invest back into the partnership to succeed, right?
100%, 100%.
What a
And
phenomenal way to
it
think
is
about
it's a motion that we want to maintain sort of that entrepreneurial energy that was responsible for driving the growth initially, but you also have to standardize and bring some of that operational rigor if you truly want to ensure that growth continues, right?
Absolutely. Now, I want to harken back to a little bit of your chief innovation officer role for Deloitte Digital. Now, one of the things that I observed Deloitte really do well is from partnerships to platforms, right? Building solution and IP around it. Can you speak to the audience about why is this stuff critical? Why is this shift important for companies to make from partnerships to platform thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly as AI has driven like the pace of change, it's also driving a much more acute focus on on outcomes, right? On value creation, and to the extent that we are trying to consistently drive those outcomes and value for our clients. One of the ways that when you're the scale that we are at this point, one of the things that you can do to continue to stay focused on driving value is how do you standardize how you're doing things in a way that takes the best of what we're doing and brings that together into a solution oriented delivery model and standardizes that in a way that makes it repeatable and drives clarity around both what we're selling and what we're delivering and what our clients should expect from a value perspective. It's a great way to take that federated special sauce of our knowledge and IP that's driven out of sector experience and years of working with our clients, and builds that into something that can be industrialized and scale again in a non-linear way, right? You're not tied to my ability to go hire 4 more smart people and get them up to speed on on a particular sector or a particular topic. In bringing that, codifying that into these solutions, not only makes it more predictable, for us, more predictable for our clients. And again, you spend less time reinventing, recreating the wheel when you're doing, projects for our clients. So I think that push we talked about earlier around towards SKUs, and how we bring all of these things together is also a great story of where our partnerships are incredibly important to us. Because again, I think the special sauce of our IP and experience with our partners, tools, and their IP, is where we can create some very unique differentiation and scale it.
Absolutely. I think Brian touched on this as well, right? Now is the time to kind of think about solutions end to end, especially with marketplaces creating go-to-market mechanisms for joint solutions. What you did way back when with these solutions, now you have an outlet by which you can also monetize it at scale.
Right. I mean, frankly, for us, one of the challenges, as it relates to the solution selling and the marketplaces, et cetera, is training a whole, sales force of people in the market on how to sell differently, right? Because they've grown up in a world where many of them, where it was a very different model of services, and rate times hours equals a fee or a fixed fee, and we're moving into a world where the outcome based expectations of our clients are driving us to sell differently, and that's creating some change management challenges for some of our sellers and how to learn how to do that, right?
Yeah, we're all part of this change. I want to pivot to this thing around, your partnerships are unique and varied, right? So you partner with the cloud providers, you partner with ISVs, security companies, AI model players, right? And all of them simultaneously in the market in service of the customer. So what's your operating model that helps kind of pick or prioritize partners and resolve some of these conflicts if it occurs in engagement? So how do you do that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is it really starts with how we, how we segment our portfolio, how we, scale across that portfolio, and do it in ways that are applicable and appropriate, for the different kinds of partners we have. But scale really starts with that portfolio discipline, and then having a real common backbone for how we operate, and how we then take that to the next level. So we've built an entire capacity around services that help drive and absorb our run the business type work, around reporting and enablement support, pipeline operations, and use that tiered model. So our biggest businesses have dedicated capacity, and yet all of our teams are focused and get standard and consistent approaches to doing things. We certainly run into scenarios where we're doing something with a partner in one segment of the market, and other partners are frustrated, right? I mean, it's a part of being at the scale we are. And I think one of the things that we find ourselves ensuring we're doing is not focus on where we have a challenge in the market or a point of potential conflict, but reinforcing the many areas where we have points of collaboration, right? And it becomes a lot easier when you focus on the areas where we're growing and where we're thriving together, and not on the couple areas where we may have some conflict. And those points of conflict or potential conflict are equally true for our partners when we're having those conflicts. So we all have to understand that in each of the segments that we play, we have to be clear on what the value prop is for each of us. They may be different in different market segments, et cetera, but as long as we're all on the same page, we can collectively drive value for
Phenomenal.
all. Yeah.
Now pivoting to the last part of the session here, people here on this call are looking for advice. That 1 year playbook, it's the start of the year, fantastic time to think about it. Whatever is their BHAG, whether it's to reach $100 million in their partnership or reach $1 billion, what are 2 or 3 moves you think they should be making? What's your advice to them?
And I certainly would not claim to have a lock on what the what the secret sauce and playbook is, but I will say that I think some of the things that we've learned, probably the hard way on some level, is there's a tendency to as if you're trying to really accelerate growth, to try to do more, right? More clients, more use cases, more things. I think what we've seen is like the opposite. The winners, tend to do the opposite, right?
Okay.
They get very focused on a few plays. They get very focused on how do you standardize and execute on those things in a frictionless way. How do you bring a repeatable story to clients? Because once you have that ability to really focus on something that is very repeatable, it tends to allow for, again, that nonlinear kind of growth. You can add volume without breaking quality, without breaking the economics or value creation lever. So I think at times, again, sometimes less is more.
Wow, what a great piece of advice. The other piece is partner impact. How do you think about, as you're looking at 140 plus partnerships and many at granular scale, what should companies, many companies struggle with measuring and communicating the value of partnership impact. You're doing something truly unique. So how's Deloitte approaching this internally as well as externally to showcase this value?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is I would say is sort of the standard metrics. But the other thing that we're trying to do is trying to drive towards creating a single trusted view of our partners' performance. Again, this is another area where we're really leaning into our work together with WorkSpan, and trying to develop a holistic picture of where we're creating that. It's not just a sales number perspective. It's where are the areas where we're co-investing in our clients to do something new. Where are we co-investing in solutions to go take to market together. it's that 360 view, right? Of where we're, where we're working for each other's benefit, both in the market, but, as clients, right? We are some of our partners' largest customers, right? And vice versa. So that holistic view of the partnership across all those dimensions really helps to create, I think, a richer picture and point to opportunity areas, right? So we know that by looking at that, hey, we could be doing more, with our partner in the co-investment space for new solution development, right? But that's really, I think that whole 360 point of view has really been helpful for us.
Yeah, Todd, we are so privileged to work with you and your team. They've been fantastic to work with. It's a joy that you've picked us as the platform of choice for co-selling. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and Amit, I can't say enough about the partnership, and truly appreciate the way that you and your team have leaned in to help take us to the next level on that co-selling motion. So thank you for that, and appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys today. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, do we have time for one question? Maybe, Todd, if you can stay for one question, I'll ask this on behalf of the audience here. The person is asking, you mentioned lines are blurring between your space and your partner space as you build more IP and assets. Can you be specific and actually take an example, perhaps, I don't know, pick an example where you're building on their platform, but potentially competing with their own services as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, we found that there are, that there are no real clear, rules to the road on some level. This in the sense that, every situation is different. So what the biggest thing that we've done is looked at where we have a unique privilege, market position, whether it's because of the IP that we've developed in a particular sector, or because of the breadth of the client relationships that we have. And then we've worked collaboratively. So that Salesforce example, one of the places where we've really leaned in is in life sciences. We have a very unique, I think, value prop in that life sciences sector. And as a result, we've worked very collaboratively with Salesforce to say, okay, here's where we believe we can co-create with you something that isn't, a direct competitive solution to something Salesforce is doing, but actually leverages some things that Salesforce does very well as a base, and brings our IP together in a unique way. So I think that communication and that clarity around where we have a unique value prop, where our partner has a unique value prop, we're not going to try to compete, frankly, at the end of the day, around the core capabilities of our largest partners. That's for us as a fool's errand. But there are a number of places where we have that, unique place in the market. Again, whether it's a client or an IP based advantage, and how do we package that with our partners is, a conversation to be had, for each and every one separately, uniquely.
Absolutely. What a unique and beautiful partnership you have with Salesforce and many others. It's a long-standing and growing partnership that kind of accommodates all of this.
A truly valuable partner for us, for sure.
Really phenomenal. So thank you, Todd. What a great session. Truly energized by what you've done. Thank you again from all of us here.
You bet. Thanks, Amit. Appreciate it.
Likewise. With that, let me hand over, without further ado, to my friend and colleague, Nirav, who's going to speak to Jason from Cisco, who's doing something truly remarkable with the Cisco 360 program. Nirav? Nirav, you may have to unmute yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Amit. Sam, if you could get Jason also as well, and then we'll get started.
Hey, Nirav.
Jason, so excited to have you It's a privilege to talk to you, and I'm sure the community here is going to benefit greatly from your session. So, quick introduction about Jason. Jason is truly a pioneer, a builder, and a thought leader in the space. He's built multi-billion-dollar partnerships, and today he and his team, drives comprehensive global channel strategies with tens of thousands of partners. So, the scale is just amazing. He's one of the key architects of the recently launched Cisco 360 program, and it's a once in a lifetime generation transformation program. They've truly transformed their partner program, moving from product-based metal tiers to a more value-based ecosystem model. And then he's consistently been recognized as the CRN channel chief 4 consecutive years, from 2022 to 25. And his team leads across networking, data center, compute, and ecosystem co-innovation. Jason, honored to have you here.
Thanks a lot, Nirav. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we dive in? Before we get to specific questions, Jason, could you talk about your role in your own words, and also talk about Cisco's partner ecosystem at large as well, all the good things that you and your team does along with your partners as well?
Sure. Yeah, I actually think your introduction did a really good job of it. I sit at the global or the corporate level for Cisco's overall partner team, and have been with Cisco about 18 years now. And part of that was previously in an acquisition where I was brought into the Cisco fold and was helping lead the channel for that company as well, and have had just the absolute pleasure of growing up in Cisco and seeing the evolution of partnering in general, of how we build go-to-markets and partnerships, but then more specifically, in recent years, the really design and then now announcement. 2 more days, and we'll be live with the Cisco 360 Partner Program. So it's been quite the journey. We, as you mentioned, cover all partners globally, all segments, sectors. We have to really think about the whole ecosystem, the different partner types, and how that comes together.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think the entire ecosystem community, if you will, they, in some or the other fashion, they partner with Cisco. So I think it's going to be a landmark launch. Tell us more about your Cisco partner ecosystem. Just give us the audience the scale, the breadth, the kinds of partners that you work with, and more importantly, some of the new solutions, innovations, plays that you're driving at Cisco, working with these partners.
Yeah. So what I would say is, again, it covers all partner types. So if you think about a few years ago, one of the big pushes across the industry was to understand the different routes to market, and kind of your classic solution integrator or your reseller. It's just been a staple in how vendors drive the technology industry for many years. But then I think there was a recognition of the fact that business models have evolved. There are managed service providers. There's the cloud marketplaces, as we just heard from your last guest, and all types of new emerging areas where the market itself has now found a need for some of the offers that we have, the digital products, and particularly as we move into AI. And you have to learn to meet the customer where they're at. So in the operational technology space, for example, there are OT suppliers that we had not historically worked with. We need to understand how to work with them. Chipsets and OEMs and manufacturers that are leveraging our chipsets in new AI breakthrough innovations. That's a partnership as well. And so I think the definition of being a partner leader and the level of understanding that you have to really drive the business for the sake of that ultimate customer outcome has expanded.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. Tell us more about Cisco 360 program. I know it's getting launched, but would love to hear from you. This is as I mentioned earlier, it's once in a generation redefinition of your partner program. And critical point to mention is you have co-designed with your partners, right? It's been close to 15 to 20 month journey. Tell us why the change. Tell us how you're planning to execute it. Tell us some of the key highlights.
Yeah, so I guess I would start off with, and maybe take a step back with, how do you orchestrate such a large ecosystem in order to even set yourself up to have that type of a change? And for us, the key was making sure that everybody from senior leadership on down to someone starting their first day, right? So think of new hire training. It's just a part of the culture to work with partners and understand that their business is a vital part of how we go to market as a company. I think far too often, a lot of vendors, they look at partners as just a transactional scale mechanism. And what they don't understand, or they don't internalize and truly appreciate deeply, is that partners are a source of strategic ideas. Partners are a compass that can point you in the right direction, right? When you have that shared understanding and two-way dialogue. And so I think starting off with that culture, and Cisco truly is known for being a culture that is one with our partners. That led us to your point of co-design. You don't necessarily just automatically have trust in every single function, from finance to operations to obviously the partner and sales organizations, on how to build a program that touches every aspect of your business and every aspect of that partner's business, unless you have it in your culture to truly co-design and open up and listen to one another. So for us, we announced originally a 15-month period where we were going to provide our partners, and frankly ourselves, an opportunity to think about, if we were going to truly transform a program, an industry award-winning program like the Cisco program has been. That's a big undertaking, and potentially a lot for everyone to go through that transformation, truly the essence of the word transformation. And so what would that look like? What would that take? And what we landed on was, if we announce a program, we wanted to make sure that it was not completed. Now, that sounds really counterintuitive, and it was fascinating to us when we first made the announcement about 2 partner summits ago, how much pushback we got, which was strange, because there were partners who were simultaneously telling us, you need to bring us in early. And then the same breath saying, wait, you just announced something that's not complete. We're like, well, how can we announce a complete program and then claim that we're going to co-design it with you? And I think the industry and so many vendors have frankly conditioned the market and our partners to think, okay, when it's out, it's done, and we're just going to tell you about it and change. It was such a surprise. Like, wait a minute, Cisco's announcing something and giving us a chance to play with the levers and change the blueprint level as we go. And I think once the partners got comfortable with it, frankly, once our own teams got comfortable with that, that was a big set of internal discussions, let me tell you. It became this really rich back and forth dialogue of, well, these are the things that work. This is what doesn't work. How do you get down to a program that is going to be the best of both? And frankly, got everyone to buy into the transformation, because if you really understand partner programs, it's much bigger than a set of policies and rules. These are business model impacts, and how we are both orchestrating our businesses together.
No, that's truly fascinating. I think it's a great example of co-innovation. Co-innovation, not just a solution or offerings, but this is actually co-innovating the entire partner program. And so with Cisco, having 80-90% of revenues that flows through partners, this is kind of transforming Cisco itself, right? And it's transforming partners as well, because a lot of partners depend on your routes to market, or you're one of the key partners as well. So a very fascinating journey. And I think you indexed one of the words that I love and appreciate is you indexed on value acceleration, right? The customer value, the partner value. So can you unpack what does partner value acceleration looks like? And then, what are the key building blocks, and give us some examples as well.
Yeah, sure. And for your audience, those who don't know, one of the key things about the new Cisco 360 Partner Program is that we have designed and built this partner value index, and that served a couple functions. One, I think it starts with the why, and back to why are we changing and getting that buy-in is because the market was shifting. And I think the emphasis on individual technologies and just um, speeds and feeds, if you will, had evolved into a set of what does the customer really need? What's the outcome that they're trying to achieve, and how do we provide a value to them? And so that was a brilliant conversation that opened up, well, how would you measure that? Because we all understand we want to measure the value, and again, do it in a way that drives a business. But what we learned along that set of discussions with our partners in that co-design that we were talking about was it mirrors the business conversation. And so, yes, you can put a set of metrics and provide these measurements. That's kind of the what. But how do we measure it in a way that we can have ongoing again, shared business framework? And so that's where we landed on the foundational level. What does it truly mean to be a partner? Second is the capabilities, like what are the best ways to train our own teams at Cisco, and how do we share all of that with you so that the capabilities are measured? The third area is aligning our sales team, so performance, not just classic sense of growth, but as we move into more recurring revenue space, enterprise agreements, SaaS-based applications, looking at new types of recurring measurements, recurring revenue measurements. And then last but not least, the whole life cycle element. Is the customer getting out of that product or that platform what was originally intended? Are they adopting it in a way that is meeting those outcomes? And that wasn't just a program where you take some training and you check a box, right? That was truly, if we were to build the best partnership going both ways, those areas of foundation, performance, capabilities, and engagement are something that we need to be regularly talking about. And once we got to that understanding, the metrics kind of fell out of that. But it was first starting with, what does it mean to have the best partnership between the two companies in those four areas?
Yeah, and this also means moving away from the mindset of selling products to solutions, right? Customer are demanding that, and then more importantly, that should translate into tangible outcomes or value for the end customers, or the business value that they're looking for as well. How are you working with the partners to build those solution mindset, if you will, and then also incentivizing as well? So maybe if you could talk about, one of the programs that I really love about you is the whole life cycle incentives, and I know you have even transformed that further as part of Cisco 360. So you can give a few examples, like what you're doing with Presidio or with some of the channel partners or the services partners for that matter.
Sure, glad to do it. So starting from the top of your point, evolving into more of those outcomes, if you will, is for us what we call more of a one Cisco platform approach. And one of the great things about working at Cisco, all these years, is we have such a broad portfolio. It's frankly one of our strengths. Networking, security, cloud, AI, Splunk. We can continue to go on. But how do you bring those together in a unified way? That's, again, what we call one Cisco. Mm-hmm. And if you think about one of our great customers and partners, Apple, for example, when you buy into an iPhone, that then ties into a set of AirPods, which then can lead you to buying their a Mac, et cetera. That platform approach is really what we wanted to have our own teams embrace, but also our partners start to understand. If you can bring together not just these individual domain areas, but bring together the technology in a way that solves these three big concepts that we think our customers are trying to tackle, which is AI-ready data centers, future-proofing their workplace, or having the digital resilience that they need in the modern world where security and observability is required. Then you can take pieces of the portfolio and combine it into based on our platform that the customer would need. We then took that concept and we have memorialized that, if you will, in the partner program, in the new version of partner program. And you mentioned earlier the metallic, the gold partner. And in many ways, a gold partner in the past was a reflection of that ideal of a partner that knew everything, but it wasn't necessarily structured in a way that you could go deep in an area. And so one of the great things that we've done with the Cisco Partner Program is we said, well, let's recognize depth in a particular area. And so there might be just a fantastic partner that knows security better than anyone. They can be recognized and rewarded in that domain. But there's also a level of the program, and there was kind of an art of designing the balance of the program that recognizes and also rewards partners who bring those combination of products together and sell it as a platform. So really, we like to say depth meets breadth and innovation meets execution. But that was a very intentional part of the design, and took us a lot of time asking many different types of partners who were either domain specific or more solution based to help us figure out, how can we best structure a program. On your last comment, though, you mentioned the life cycle element. That for us was non-negotiable. Whether you sell individual product or whether you sell across, our customers have to be able to realize the value that product or that offer was intended to, and that's the life cycle. That's where actually we've worked quite a bit with you all. WorkSpan has been a great partnership as you have built out some of our back-end systems for our life cycle incentive, how partners show up with the proof of performance. It just makes it a lot easier for the partners to show us how they are truly driving the adoption with the customers. And that's something that we now can more regularly incentivize and reward on.
Yeah, no, I think this is a best practice in the industry, and you were one of the pioneers to launch this. In fact, we are having many conversations, whether it be with hyperscalers, other ISVs, other GSIs as well, and they want to kind of roll this out as well, because truly everybody is moving towards customer value. A lot of data and AI companies are moving towards consumption-based pricing or consumption-based revenue recognition. So this is such a fascinating program that a lot of industry players can learn from. Let's switch gears. I think it would be unworthy if I did not ask you about what you're doing in AI, right? So how are you? What is your play on AI? How are you using AI to enable your partners? How are you infusing this as part of your overall go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, so there's so many ways to answer this question. I will answer it from the partner program standpoint, because that's the key to the discussion today. But our portfolio is enabled through AI. We sell AI infrastructure. Our customers are looking to us to help consult on the use cases behind AI. So there's so many facets of how Cisco is involved in and driving AI. But through the partner program lens, what I would say is, and maybe a key learning for your audience, as I understand it, would be, when we announced the program, we talked about the value index earlier, and obviously there's incentives and rebates that come along with it. But the operational or partner experience portion of the strategy was not a bolt-on. Like, that wasn't something that we thought of afterwards. This was a very clear and funded part of how we were going to build the program. There was an operations and data team that went out to partners, drove several hundred engagements to ask partners how would they want to consume the data, and then how would some of those data exchanges that we have via, again, dashboards, or even through some of the APIs that we have in exchange with our partners, what would that look like as a part of a new program experience, so that they can get the information that they needed right away, real time, if needed. And what resulted in that level of, again, being very intentional with the partner experience and the operations portion of this, is that we've now been able to build and structure the data so that there is a Cisco AI assistant for partners within our partner portal. So you can go in, ask about the partner program, and it offers up, all of the answers that someone, in the past may have had to search for. You can look for propensity to buy. So based on your install base of customers, How can identify a customer who may be ready to buy an enterprise agreement? Those are offers that are, or benefits, I should say, that are part of the overall partner program experience. And WorkSpan, again, is a key part of that through how our data is flowing, and our PXP, that we call it, our partner experience platform, has been built from the ground up.
Okay, I think we have a few minutes left. So I'll ask one question and then we'll see if there are any other questions that the audience may want to ask. So one question that we always ask, you have such a stellar career. You've led many programs. What is one or two advice that you would give to ecosystem leaders, channel partners, who are looking to transfer their partner programs in the world of AI, where things are moving so fast, where customers are demanding, customer value and outcomes are the most important thing? What would be a few things that they should be thinking about?
So if I was to summarize that into, let's say, three parts. One is I've seen some great channel leaders who they get to a level of understanding of channel management, driving those foundationally important relationship elements, the sales, the interaction, and that's, I think, critical for anyone to be successful, period. I've seen others who then elevate and start to think about the partner programs and some of the conversations that we just had. Often that's a mindset, though, of what do rebates look like, and some of the systems, and upfront discount and deal registration. And I think that is an elevated understanding. But I would say the elite, they can then start to blur the lines between how building and designing true go-to-markets are part of the business structure and the culture itself. And I think when you start to get to that level, that's when that global ecosystem scale that you were talking about, what Cisco has, you can appreciate concepts like platform economics, competitive differentiation, or even how some of the global transformation of sovereigns around the world are impacting our partners' businesses and profitability, and bring that in. Those become C-suite level conversations, and we have such a rich legacy of partner leaders here. Chuck Robbins, our own CEO, led the partner organization. Oliver Tusick, who's the head of all things sales globally, led the partner organization. Tim Coogan is the current leader. It's just one of those things where you have to elevate beyond channel management and programs and start to understand the business strategy behind it, which is what I think the essence of where we're headed with Cisco 360 is at.
Yeah, that's such a great insight. And I think Todd talked about it as well. They call it growth because it has to be dovetail into the key organizational priority or goals. One last question that we have from Steve. I'll read it for you, and team, if you can bring it up as well. You mentioned virtually no complaints from partners at launch. That's super impressive, especially with this large roster of partners. What about internal resistance, and how did your field sales team and channel account managers react to measuring partners on capability and customer engagement instead of just revenues? So talk about more of the internal churn or discussions, and I'm sure this was a very fascinating time.
Sure, and I just want to correct the first part of that. If I in any way said that there was no complaints, that is certainly not true. And I think that wouldn't even be representative of true communications. These are tough communications, which you have to be able to have open and honest dialogue, even when there are complaints. So there clearly was complaints. We just were able to work through it and understand that often complaints are opportunity for us to learn. I would say internally, one of the key things was to ensure that we had regular enablement available, and our own teams understood what we were doing as we were, moving along the journey, so that they would be able to help us scale and answer the partners' questions as well. One other thing which I'll add is our distributors. They have been such a vital part of this, in many ways internally from that regard, equipping them with all of the content, the regular updates, so that they can help us answer questions and do that as well. So.
Yeah, no, that is fascinating, and I would have loved to be a fly in the room during those discussions. One last question, if you can squeeze in, EB. As we move into Cisco 360, what additional resources will be available to partners for visibility? And then specifically, will Cisco be including API access as part of this usability as well?
Sure. So yeah, we do have various APIs, both on the commerce side as well as on the program side. We are working, as you mentioned, with you all in Workspan. So that's been a great tool that we're leveraging. And then the Cisco AI Assistant, that has been something that we more recently announced and is a part of our PXP, again, the partner experience platform that we use. And that's a one-stop shop now. So there's a plethora of data and information, the partner value index scoring, which is available on a regular updated basis, sales, install-based data, that's all available within that PXP platform that we've built.
Awesome. So I think we are at the top of the hour. Jason, this has been such a great conversation. I always learn something new from you. Thank you for always being the leading light of the industry. So kudos to you and the team for great work. And our best wishes for the launch. We are partners in crime, so we'll be rooting for you, and so is the community here. So thank you once again.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure working with you and Amit and the team.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nirav. Thank you, Jason. Fantastic closing session there. Just quick recap. I know we're over time here, but wanted to congratulate our co-stars of co-sell winners one more time, Joe and Boomi on the Partnering Pioneer Award. Joe, loved that you brought receipts, showed the traction that Boomi has unlocked with the AWS partnership. Congratulations to Highland and the Accelerator Award, and to all of the other winners. We do have one slide in here, Chase, if we can bring back up our key takeaway slide. Yeah, thank you. We'll share the deck and the recording so people can see the winners. We'll share more content, sharing all of the stories that were nominated. Incredible work happening in partnerships, and we're so thrilled to be a part of it. Fantastic sessions today. So thank you to our speakers and Amit and Nirav for a great job moderating. Thank you to the audience for the questions. Again, we'll send this content out because I know we are at time, but great takeaways from AWS on AI partnerships and the power of three. Very specific recommendations in there, if you missed them, on how to make sure that you're positioning your company and your solutions on the AWS marketplace and in your execution of your co-sell and how you submit referrals in ACE to make sure that you're being recommended by AWS's AI partner recommendation engine to their sellers and on their marketplace to prospective buyers. So make sure you catch up on that session. Great work from Deloitte and Todd walking through how they went from single execution to platform thinking for their co-sell, and how the consistency in what seems mundane becomes mission critical if you want to execute at the pace of AI. Great commentary too on how to think about their portfolio, moving to repeatable services and SKUs in this marketplace-driven AI world. And then loved closing it out with Jason on the eve of the launch of Cisco 360. Longtime partners of Cisco and the amazing work that they do in their partner ecosystem. Very, very proud to support them, and love the commentary on how do you work internally to create that culture where you really are prioritizing a partner-first mindset and taking that feedback to go through such a ambitious and successful launch of their new partner programs. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for kicking off the year with us and spending a little bit of Q4 closing out with us. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Bye.